Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a Friday night Nighthawk Supernatural by the Fire. I'm Nighthawk, your host, and we'll be discussing a lot of cryptid legends from the native people, some stories to go over, and some warnings to go over. Okay. So, with that out of the way, let's do the disclaimer here. It's this channel may use some copyrighted material without specific authorization of the owner, but contends that it falls under the Fair Use Act. Nighthawk High Strange, this podcast channel, and all the podcasts on the channel declare fair use of any and all content, including the music, to be used for the sole purpose of informing you, the viewing family, of information for educational purposes, criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, research, parody, and let's not forget the entertainment value. Per Title 17, Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, otherwise known herein as the Fair Use Act. All right, now that that's out of the way, I grew up on legends of old that my father used to tell me and my Uncle Cliff used to tell me. And one of those legends, one of those great stories that I remember as a child that made my hair on the back of my neck stand up and that sent that chill down my spine was the legend of the Shunka Warrican. Shunka means dog in our language, or wolf. You know, they have pretty much the same meaning, basically canine. Warrican is to take dogs. Okay, they were the ones that carried off the dogs. They'd sneak into the camp as much as they could back in the old days, and we would literally find our dogs missing or pieces of them missing, never to be seen again. Okay, these legends, these tales that my ancestors passed down to me, I'm now going to start passing them down to you all. So while I'm here, we're going to get into it, okay? The Shunka Warrican. My father and my Uncle Cliff described it as being a massive, wolf-like creature with certain features of the hyena in the face. It stood 4 feet at the hind quarters on all fours, 4 feet tall. It went anywhere from 300 to 350 pounds. It was a huge, huge animal. The Shunka Warrican. My Uncle Cliff told me that he thought that the Shunka Warrican could stand on 2 legs like a man, because we had stories passed down from generation to generation about the Shunka Warrican standing on 2 legs and chasing native people. Now, was it a dog man? I don't think so. You see, the Shunka Warrican had a taste for flesh and blood, but not of human. It seeked to devour its own kind or similar to its kind. Now, that's not to say that every now and then a child didn't come up missing, or the heads of young children and women were found without the bodies. Legends that filled the night with screams of terror. I can almost look back now and imagine how it was back then for them. On the cold, cold nights in the lodge with your family sleeping safely, you thought, around a fire, and all of a sudden you hear the ungodly growl of the Shunkaworakan. And it vibrates your whole body. It shakes your senses to the core from feeling the vibration of its announcement that it's there. Now, the Shunkaworakan didn't necessarily give any warnings. That was more of a goodbye. And what I mean by that is the Shunkaworakan would know what he's there for. He would cycle in on his prey. He would take his prey. And when he got so far away from the camp, he always turned and let us know goodbye, which meant he'd be coming back. Now, I know there have been reports of dogmen and reports of hyena-looking dogmen. So I ask you flat out, could the Shunkaworakan be the dogman that has the hyena face? Most definitely. Most definitely. It's a massive, massive creature. Fangs 6 inches in length. Massive neck. Short snout like that of the short-faced bear. And yes, my family did believe that it could walk on 2 legs like a dog man. The Shunkaworakan was said to have been killed back in 2006 by a hunter in Montana. This is what he saw, and this is what he shot. Now I ask you, judging by the massive neck and the big snout on it like that of a hyena, the thickness of it, and the long, long front legs that could possibly even be used to keep its balance when it stands on 2 legs on the rear. The Shunkaworakan was a definite apex predator, and it's still out there. It's still out there. There's still reports of it. Some people call it the dire wolf. Other people call it the Shunkaworakan. I'll leave that up to you. The basic description is the Shunkaworakan is a wolf-like creature from American folklore, I should say on Native American folklore, whose name means carries off dogs. And in Native American term, the Lowe and other native tribes say that the creature is a cross between a wolf and a hyena and has an eerie, monster-like nature. The indigenous Lowe people say that the creature would sneak into their camps at night and steal their dogs. How'd you like that to come into your tent? Get a hold of your precious little dog and basically be done with one crunch, crushing every bone that it has. Same thing happened to some children and to some women, especially when they went to the creeks and the rivers alone or went berry collecting. It's a beast. And they estimated that if it did stand on its back two legs, that it would be well over 8 feet tall. It very well could be one type of the dog man, because we don't have these stories and these legends for anything except for teaching our children where not to go and when not to be out alone and away from the people. The Shunkawarikon, 4 foot at the shoulder, would probably be on the average of, I'd say, 300 pounds. My father used to say he saw one time that was about 350 to 400 pounds, and it was massive. See, my father, like me, when I was growing up, we were given certain gifts, and my father had the same gifts that I had when it came to animals, especially wildlife. He'd be able to put his hand out 100 feet away from a buck or a doe, and that buck or doe would walk up to his hand, sniff his hand, and lick it. We'd have all kinds of wildlife coming to our back door, wanting to see my father and myself. We raised wolves, and I'm not talking domestic mix. I'm talking real timber wolves. You see, my father used to find them injured. And of course, that story goes that we passed it on to me to take care of them. You know, Native Americans for the longest time had warned people to stay out of certain sacred areas. We have so many legends out there that we have told the European descendants and the Asian descendants and stuff that came here years ago. We'd warn them, like the lost colony of Roanoke. Like the Pilgrims, like Columbus. Every president down throughout the 17th and 1800s, but nobody would listen. Now you wonder why you have people going missing. We talk of water spirits and evil entities that live within the water and that travel between two worlds through the water, coming and coaxing young men and young women to the water's edge only to be grabbed and taken into the water, found several hours later drowned, laying face down. You see, it's a native thing with my people that if you did kill somebody, like say you were a spirit and you were getting revenge, and you would drag them into the water, you would want to put the person face down so their spirit will never come back. That's an old native thing with my family. My father even did it during World War II, and so did my Uncle Cliff. Whenever they killed an enemy, they'd roll them over face down. Instead of that spirit of that enemy coming back and living again and creating more harm, it would go down into the ground to the pits of hell where it belonged. But you see, the Shunkawarikon not the only one out there, only thing out there that we basically warned everybody about. There's also other things in the woods. The Bakwas. The Bakwas. The Northwest people of the United States, Canada, British Columbia, on over to Vancouver Island, on into Oregon and Washington, along the coast, they know of the Bequas. The Bequas is not a Sasquatch and not a Bigfoot. The Bequas is a 4 to 5 foot tall, hair covered demon. You see, it has a hunger, an insatiable hunger for flesh and blood. The Bequas was said to be 4 to 5 feet tall and built very powerful. That it would lure children and women away from their lodges and their encampments into the woods or near the water, and it would take them and carry them off. You see, the Bequas is not 9 feet tall, 10 feet tall. It doesn't go over 1,000 pounds. A Bequas is 3 feet to 4 feet to 5 feet tall maximum, hair covered, have a human looking face, but monkey like limbs. It would travel to treetops, barely ever getting onto the ground. Because you see, in that area of the world, the ground was that of the Sasquatch territory. So they knew if they were on the ground and they came across a Sasquatch or a dog man, they would more than likely be killed. So the Bequas stuck to the treetops, made its home up high in the trees, traveled hundreds of yards from treetop to treetop to get to one point to another. They used to attack their prey, usually in groups of 3 or 4. And what they would do is they would funnel them, children, women, and even some men. They would funnel them into an area that they actually laid timber down to make into a dead end, a culvert, you would say. And they would channel them and chase them from the treetops all the way to where they would run into the block that they put there. That's how smart the Bequas was. Pretty damn smart. You see, not only did these things learn on doing hunting things and skills from the native people around them, but the native people learned skills and stuff from them. Soon we were onto their tactics, and these frequencies stopped for a little bit. And then they started seeing more Sasquatch in the area, 9, 10 foot tall, and less Bequas. Now, the Bequas is now interpreted as being a Bigfoot, and it's not. It is not the same. So whenever you hear somebody call Sasquatch or Bigfoot Bequas, you know that it's wrong. These creatures had normal teeth, but they had fangs. And the fangs were twice as long as their normal teeth. They had 2 sets of fangs on the bottom and the top. These fangs were used to pull the flesh from the bone. They had a taste for human flesh and for blood. Nobody knows why, but they did love blood. Now, there are many other legends that we're going to be going over. Many things that haunt the shadows. Many things that people don't take our word for it. Giant black cats that disappear in the night. Giants that live amongst looking like trees and walk in this world. Shadows that live in another realm that come to ours only to take, never to give. These are some of the stories we're going to be covering whenever we come on every other Friday or when I feel like it. Now, I'm going to tell you a story of Osaka Jack. You see, long ago, amongst the Algonquin and the Mohawk and the Cree and even the Ojibwe, there was a spirit, a trickster spirit called Osaka Jack. And this spirit, like I've said before, we as native elders, medicine people, have a way of blessing the land and at the same time cursing the people that harm the land or the animals upon it. Now you see, Wasaka Jack was one of those spirits that we would call upon for revenge. Wasaka Jack could take the form of anything: a wolf, a beaver, an eagle, salmon, trout, snakes, even the wind. But Wasaka Jack, he loved the water. He loved the cool, clear, clean, crisp water. The true elixir of life. And Wasaka Jack, well, the people were upset because the white man was cutting down all the trees and ruining the forest, and the wildlife was getting run off. So it affected everything in the area. So the people called on Wasaka Jack to enact vengeance. And vengeance it was. Wasaka Jack took the human form, dressed in black, eagle feathers in his hair not braided, laid across his shoulders and down his chest. A monster of a man, 6.5 feet tall, every bit of 250, 300 pounds. Too big. Too big for the police cruisers to put him in. And if it was much trouble, they didn't do it in Canada. But Wasaka Jack, he soon started becoming a trickster and taking the sawmills and just damaging the equipment so it wouldn't work. Getting the native people to rebel and become angry and halt the cutting the trees. But Wasaka Jack wasn't the only trickster. See, the white man, they have their own tricksters too, in their own spirit. And without a respect for the land or the animals, the native people's hatred grew. And it grew to a point that it was boiling over. So the elders and the medicine people asked Waseka Jack to leave and let them deal with the aftermath. Well, Waseka Jack, he wouldn't leave. You see, once you summon the spirit, they don't have to listen to you. The only time they got to listen to you is when you summon them. A lot of elders didn't know that, and they learned soon after that, because things would happen around the reservations. Odd things would be put out of place. People would just one day walk out the door to their home and turn to go down the path, never to be seen again. To this day, there's still indigenous people missing. And you know why? Because when Waseka Jack takes somebody, you don't find them. He takes them back to the other realm. Just like the Bequas, just like the Shunka. These creatures are real. These spirits are real. And when somebody that's indigenous tells you where to go and where not to go and how to walk in beauty and with reverence and respect for everything that you walk on and near, you must listen. One of the greatest things I could teach anybody is to how to reconnect. You know, this world makes us wear shoes, makes us wear socks, makes us wear gloves, masks now. I don't think I've ever seen this many people wearing masks and not having a gun in their hand to rob somebody. This world is upside down. And Waseka Jack, Aniktomi, and all the other tricksters, they love this world being upside down because it reminds them of their world. And as long as these spirits, these trickster spirits are around, there's always going to be turmoil in the world. Long time ago, there was a giant bee. And this big, giant yellow jacket would attack the people. And this went on for hundreds of years. And finally, the people got together and said, we have to fight back. We're losing too many of our own. So what they did is they chased this bee, this giant monstrous bee, into a cave, and they covered the entrance with all kinds of dead wood and smoky grasses and stuff, any type of wood they could find, and they lit it on fire, and they sealed up all the exits to this cave, and they burnt that big giant bee in that cave. And when the people came back to that cave a month later, excited, they removed all the burnt debris from the front of the cave. And as soon as they did that, out came millions of little tiny yellow jackets, stinging the people. That's why we have yellow jackets. That's why we have bees that sting. Because mankind twisted and confused the natural order of things. And that's what it's about. It's about the natural order of things. It's about the mutual respect. The more respect you have for the land and the animals that walk upon it with you, the better your life is going to be. The safer you're going to be when you're out in the woods alone. Take it from me. I grew up on these stories. I used to lay awake at night thinking about the big giant wasps and bees and stuff from way back when. Nobody tells those stories anymore. They should be told. And that's why I'm doing this. People need to be told. More and more people are going to turn up missing, never to be found, or found face down in the water. All the elementals of the land, all the animal spirits, they have their own way of calling in the demons, the tricksters, the Iktomes, the coyotes. The tricksters are always around. They walk amongst you. You don't even know it. Let me go to the comments here. Woo Rider, good to see you. Sue James, good to see you. Scott, good to see you. Glade Screechers, good to see you. And Edna, good to see you. Who else we got in here? Who else? Some of these stories. Katie, good to see you. Good to see you. Roxanne, good to see you. Ray, good to see you, brother. Some of these stories, you guys, I wish I could tell them as good as my father or my Uncle Cliff was. Because you see, they would tell me, and I could literally envision what they were describing to me. Those stories, they were more than just stories, more than just a legend. They were a part of life. They were meant to teach us on what to do and what not to do and how to behave and how not to behave and where to go and where not to go. I miss those old stories. The whole thing of passing down the stories. My own children don't care for the old stories. So I got a funny feeling it's going to die after I die. These stories need to be told. You see, a lot of things get misconstrued over time. And if these stories aren't told, then how are we supposed to know the difference between a Bequas and a Sasquatch? I mean, they're both spirits. They're both forest dwelling. One we call forth, the other lives amongst us. The Bequas, the Dog Man, the Shunkawarkon, Bigfoot, they're all the same pretty much. These meanings of these entities, these beings, is a sacred one. And if you were to see these beings, these spirits at night, you'll see a shadow move amongst the trees, and you'll know that one of these spirits are there. There's so many of these monstrous spirits. You know, the Cherokee people warned people of the Raven Mocker. They warned people of the giant lizard that lives within the swamps. You know, the lost colony of Roanoke. You know, they people didn't understand where they went, but us native people know where they went, and it ain't good. Sure, some of them probably got adopted into tribes and other people, but the majority of them meant their lives lost to these legends that supposedly don't exist if you believe your English background. These legends do exist. Nobody warns anymore about these legends except me. Well, I wanted to come on tonight and just give you a taste of what this is going to be like. Hopefully, the next time I come on, we can actually have the fire outside. So consider this a test. The old days may be gone, but those same old deities, those same old elementals, those same old cryptid creatures that you call Bigfoot, Dog Man, Lizard Man, they're still here. The demons of the walkers, the Wendigo, the demon spirits, they're still here. They've never gone away. They may lie dormant because some of the people have lost these stories and these legends, and they've lost the respect for the way they were, the way the things were supposed to be. We don't warn people anymore. I guess that's my job. I'm going to go to the comments and talk to some of you, see if you all have any, if you can, if you have any questions, put them in caps. Freaky, good to see you. And Eddie, what are you talking about with the Cherokee? Oh, by the way, the next time on this, we're going to be bringing up the Cherokee Death Cat, okay, and several other. Don't think I've ever been stung by a bee, but wasp, yeah, hornet, yes. Yeah. Well, you know that those stories of the giant bee and how the small millions and millions of the smaller ones after they uncovered the cave is just like the reason that we have mosquitoes today. And I'm sure some of you heard me tell this story before about the three Cree hunters that went out one day hunting for their peoples to have food, and game was scarce. And these three Cree hunters were warned by their elders and by their medicine person not to shoot or kill the bear because the bear was the first medicine man. It knew what to eat for a stomach ache. It knew how to take care of an itch, how to take care of pain, you know, all that. And the medicine people in those days learned from watching the wildlife. You know, what kind of things they taught themselves to eat for pain, you know, and all that. Yeah, Roxanne, all the stories could be written down. Anyways, these three Cree hunters, they went out and for days on end, they couldn't find any game. And finally, on like the last day, they were getting ready to pull up camp and head back defeated without anything for their people to eat. They saw the bear. And these three Cree hunters pulled back their bows and they're holding their arrows. And one of them stopped and said, "No, wait a minute. We were told not to shoot and kill the bear." And one Cree hunter says to the others, "People aren't going to know where the meat came from. We just won't tell them." So two of these Cree hunters out of the three pulled back their bows and they shot. Two arrows went, killed the bear. Well, they started skinning and processing the bear. They put it in a big pot and covered it, put it on the fire so they could have something to eat before they set out to go back to the people. After a couple hours on the fire, the pot started shaking and rattling and, you know, making all kinds of noise. And one of the Cree's hunters opened up the pot, and out of that pot came millions upon millions of mosquitoes, started stinging them. You see, stories like that have meaning, have purpose. Okay? Stories like that have a way of teaching the young and teaching the old something that they might have forgotten. And every one of those stories and those legends, one of the main reasons to tell these legends and to warn people was because to walk in a good way, to walk with reverence and respect for everything. Just because there's an anthill doesn't mean that because you have a boot on, you can kick the anthill and not have repercussions. Try to take down a hornet's nest and see what happens. Try to mess with a poisonous snake and see what happens. You know, indigenous people, all of us, all of us have a purpose. All of us have stories to tell, stories that need to be told, stories that need to be heard. Yolanda, good to see you. Communication's easy. You just have to learn to listen. National Library Day. uh, that's the point. That's the point, and Edna. Everything is everything's being forgotten. So that's the purpose of all of this going on right now on the channel. So some of these stories will continue with just one click of the button. They can either watch it or they don't have to. Long after I'm gone, you know. If people want to know, then they'll know. Unless the powers that be continue to destroy the world. Yep. Next time we're going to have the Cherokee Death Cat and we're going to have the Thunderbird and one other story, legend. Okay. So hopefully it'll be a good one. Okay. I want to thank everybody for being here. Okay. Hopefully next time we will have the actual fire going and we'll be able to be outside under the stars when I talk about this stuff, because it's not the same. It's not the same being inside. I can't take my moccasins off and feel the ground beneath my feet when I talk. That's the other thing I try to teach people. Keep that connection. You know, they say there's a 6-foot energy field around us of our own vibration, that we're all made of energy. And when you go into somebody else's energy field and you feel nauseated and dizzy and all that, it's because they're not at the same frequency you're at. They're at a much lower frequency, or a frequency that's just twisted and off a little bit because they're off a little bit. Everything has frequency, everything has vibration, everything has spirit, everything has power. So remember that, okay? Until next time, guys, if you can, like, heart, and share this out. Subscribe to the channel. And we will see you next time. Okay? Next time on Nighthawk, Supernatural by the Fire. Like I said, we will have the Cherokee Death Cat. We will have the Thunderbird, and I'm going to find one others to talk about. Okay? So we will see you all then. And please like, and share this out if you can, okay? Thank you, guys. And we'll see you in the morning, too, at 11 a.m. for the Saturday morning Paranormal Weekend Morning Brew Show. Oh, that's a mouthful. I got to shorten that. Somebody help me shorten the name of that. Anyways, we'll see you all in the morning, okay? Get a good night's rest. You'll probably need it. Till then, we'll see you.